Hey, greetings folks, I'm Will Lombardi and I'm down here at Capitol Arts Gallery today with the featured artist of February, Armen Guess. Welcome, Armen.
Thank you, thanks for having me.
I've been looking at your images, is that the right, what should I call these?
They're all different
Pieces.
creations. Yeah, they're all different creations, so.
And we'll get to talk a little bit more about them, each one in particular, but you mentioned being inspired early by graffiti.
That's right.
You talk about having a background in psychology,
Yes, sir.
as well as fine arts.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like what we're seeing here is really heavy intersectionality of some kind of those elements. I wondered this morning, my question for you was, did you find art or did art find you? And I just sort of wonder as I run that down where it's at.
Yeah, it's a good question because I think art found me through the culture, through skating and as a kid running around the streets, and you do what your friends do, and as a kid you want to express yourself in different ways. So I think that's where I picked up skateboarding and graffiti and just the expression of yourself in LA, in Los Angeles. Yeah, growing up in LA is pretty crazy as a kid, so you get introduced to things at a younger age. So I picked up doing graffiti and stuff when I was 13.
So did it start with skating and then you started carrying a spray can, or what?
Yeah, a little bit of that. When you're skating, I was already 13 years old and we're taking buses to different cities, things that 13-year-olds shouldn't be doing. So you just start learning other things that come with it. So a lot of this I think is letting out an experience for each piece, things that I experienced maybe when I was younger.
And so it really did begin with exploration.
Yeah, and I think I'm trying to find something new every time I'm painting too.
And so early on, you're exploring. That exploration exposes you to these new things. Was there a piece of street art that was the moment?
When I saw graffiti artists in general going out of their way to do what they had to do.
Did you see people working, or did you just see the product?
Well, I went out and did it myself as a kid, and I got in trouble and this and that, but just seeing other adults taking time out of their day or night to go and do that, and having no recognition for it was damn, it's pretty motivating to see as a little kid. And after a while, you grow out of that and you create your own style. It's not just graffiti anymore, but you take those elements and create something for yourself.
So how long did you remain in that phase? How long was it, I'm skating, but I'm making this other thing, and it's sort of a pastime? When did it become a focal point?
Even before the graffiti and stuff, I would get kicked out of school and do art, even before I picked up spray painting and stuff. So I think it's always been with me, but I made it more I guess I focused more on it when I went to college, when I was on my own.
Was the art you were making prior to graffiti, did the two styles match up, or did your style change radically when you started doing graffiti?
Before graffiti, I was just a kid, just trying to make myself feel good, because that was the only thing that I would do instead of going to class or something.
Yeah,
and it just turned into something,
And so you're a young teenager beginning to do this, live in this sort of world of graffiti art for art's sake, I suppose. And then that translated into wanting to go to school for it, or
Yeah, like
was that an afterthought?
when I went to school, I was trying to like become a psychologist, and then I started working in psychology. And
But the art hadn't disappeared from your
no, like at that time, I was taking a minor in art, so I took like a mural course at the same time I was taking psych classes. And then I worked in the psych field, and I was like, I don't want to do this because it was just a lot working with people coming off the street, and yeah, I would just take it home, and it was just a lot. So I wanted to do something more positive, which was like art. It made me feel good, honestly, and if I could help people with that, it's even better.
The mural course must have just been that sort of logical next step, right?
Yeah.
Did that blossom into other courses? Was there a certain instructor? Were you studying in the same places and with the same people?
Yeah, that course made me pretty much make my pieces way bigger. So I was doing like 6-foot paintings in the class at the same time. Like every other day you would work on your piece or you'd work on a mural. So it was good to like have more like freedom to work with a bigger size. And at that same time I turned my garage into an art studio in college. So I had like the freedom to experiment with something new, and I think that's where I created what I have now.
That's exciting, right? Psychology, where is that now?
I mean, I use psychology in business, obviously, and with art and keeping up with the trends, and you know, you have to create a deal and this and that. But like working in that field is a lot different.
And does your art help you now in a way that it didn't before in terms of taking that kind of work home with you?
Yeah, I think art is, you know, it helps anyone who wants to like let something out or has something on their mind they want to, you know. I think that's the main. I let a lot of what I have out emotionally through artwork, whether it's with spray paint or like, you know, just acrylic works like these.
So
it can be very therapeutic.
So your average day, are you working in your studio every day? For how much of the day?
Yeah.
Do you wait for inspiration to strike? How does your process sort of unfold?
I work in the mornings on the computer doing another job, so I'm done by like 12, 1 o'clock, and I have the rest of the day to work. In LA, I had a big studio, so I was going out there every day. I was painting. Right now, I'm taking a little time off. Doing more stuff like on Photoshop and things that I need to do internally. Working on my website and things like that. And not as much painting.
I see. So is there a studio space here, and it's just sort of
not yet
mothballed, or you're working towards that?
Yeah, I need to get that going. But in the meantime, I'm still working on things I need to do, like mock-ups for like murals and, you know, like I said, my website, which is
was that a hard day to walk away from your former studio?
Yeah, definitely, because I was there for like 2 years. It's like 1,200 square foot space I was working in, and I'm working every day for that. And yeah, it's really hard to let go because I'm on, you know, I want to go back to that work ethic that I had. And I got to figure out other things to do right now instead, which is fine. It's good to take a break and do other things.
Yeah, I definitely think so, but I feel what you're saying. I think you're right with, it's not just, you know, thinking about technique, it's thinking about your process, but it's also taking the time or making the time.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely need my studio again because I got a lot to do. But
and so right now, as you've stepped away from full-scale creator mode that you were in, what are you doing to keep that art alive? You know, you've spoken about that you're doing these other sort of behind the scenes things.
Yeah, there's like a lot of things you have to do as an artist. Like I never made prints, which I'm like making prints of my old works that were pretty good, strong pieces that I'm going back to and making prints. And there's just so much to do, like marketing, and have to apply to constant shows. So I'm catching up on all that.
Does that feel creative?
I mean, you have to do it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, you're not going to go to the next step. You have to
Yeah.
apply yourself. That's like half of your job as an artist.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a team, it's just you. So
I can't imagine.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know. Are you struck though every day with a new idea or thought, and are you keeping a sketchbook or taking notes, or how does that work? How do you not lose that even as you're focused on sort of the nuts and bolts of things?
I definitely write a lot on my phone. Like the ideas I have, I write on like Post-its and stuff around me. So I got a lot that I want to bring all together eventually, but I can't do it until I have my studio. But I'm writing it all down.
I'm fascinated by that because you're a visual artist. Was your art beginning with writing prior to this moment, or is your art now going to be born sort of out of the written word for the first time?
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because I'm like doing a lot of lettering pieces right now, so a little bit of both in a way. For example, the smiley faces, that's all different writings inside, and I think I need to make it more apparent so you can read the letters inside. So that could be like the next thing. And that's an idea I wrote down to make the letters more appealing. Maybe you can read what's on the inside.
Yeah, I see. So that it's functioning on
Kind of like a poetry thing.
Yeah.
Because I did like poetry for sure. It's a great way of expression too.
Yeah. So before the move, were you among a certain art culture down there in LA, or were you sort of working independently, or
Yeah,
what were you looking
I had a partner in there.
Feel?
I had a partner in there who did like construction, so he just rented a little corner, and like whenever we had like big projects or sculptures we had to do, he would work with me. And then everyone in that building's an artist or photographer, so you walk down the hall and everyone's doing something creative, and you could just walk into their room and someone's doing woodworking or photography. And I definitely miss that, and that's what you need as an artist. But like living out there in that environment is not going to work out right now.
Yeah.
It did at that time.
Yeah.
So,
Were most people in there for 2.5 years? I mean, that seems like a long run in a studio like that.
I mean, a lot of people get bigger studios after.
Uh-huh.
I had a friend who was in there for like a year, and he's already making crazy money, so he just got a bigger space. So, I mean, it's a great place for creatives, I think. I decided to go rent out that studio instead of getting my master's degree in fine arts and do that instead.
Because it's practice is
It's the same.
mastery, yeah.
Well, I was just networking there instead of networking at school where I had to pay, $50,000 for.
That was in Monterey?
No. After Monterey, I got into Pasadena Art Center.
How was it going to school for art, in Monterey and in Pasadena? Was that, obviously you chose not to continue.
Yeah, I just got into Pasadena and decided not to go and get the studio instead.
I see.
I mean, living in Monterey, I was on my own, so that's what I wanted to do, is be on my own and take the next step in my career. So it was a good stepping stone.
Was that move influential in the pieces you were creating?
I think my environment definitely influences my artwork.
And so now what do you think is how long have you been here in Plumas County?
In Quincy, almost a year. And before that, I was living in Portola in the summers. And then I was out here as a kid too.
Sure. And so what does this very different environment, how does it influence you? Or do you suspect, as you're managing these ideas in your notebooks, do you suspect that this environment is having an impact?
Yeah, I think when I start getting into the rhythm again, it's all gonna be a whole new style of work.
Trees?
not just, it's cool, not trees, but just like a whole, something will come out of it, you know? I think like the waves and stuff, it came out of like living by the beach and just always being like surrounded by water or whatever it was, being comfortable with water, swimming. So I think living out in the forest, I'll create something new for myself.
Yeah. Is it, I want to ask a question somehow about, you started out by saying that much of this began as something that was therapeutic. And I don't quite know what question I want to ask. I'm probing art, not therapy.
Yeah.
But, you know, you're, like you say, you're working with waves. You're talking about the relationship between art and therapy. And, you know, what we're seeing here is pattern, repetition, and vibrant color. And perhaps that's where I was headed. Where do these shapes, the repeated patterns, the colors come from? Because these are very striking, very vibrant. And I'm just curious about how you arrive here.
I think I like to use bold colors to like stand out and make a meaning, and you know, that's my artwork. The patterns and just come from, you know, different movements and different, you know, trying out different things. I like not having a straight line, you know, just creating your own work, you know, not having, just like there's no rules, so you can bend the lines and each one is different. The lettering, I guess it came from just writing in class, just I'd write and write over and over when I was still paying attention, but that's how I would get through class growing up.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it relates to.
Those are powerful sort of moments that I recognize myself, you know, the need to make this thing, the right, still paying attention, but, you know, over here just a little bit, you know. And it does seem like you are sort of just outside of that sort of traditional hanging on the wall art, you know, and I do see in the color and in maybe some of the wild shapes and patterns and the removal of the straight line, I see the graffiti.
Yeah, I think color is most important for me, is what I always try and focus on, is the colors going together. Just, I mean, if you could put like a bunch of colors together and make it look good, I think that's, you know, besides the colors, I mean, the colors make me feel good, so that's why I use the bright fluorescent colors versus something dark. And if you look at it, it's going to make you feel negative, you know?
Yeah.
More, I think, trying to paint a brighter picture or a brighter experience for someone.
Yeah, that's a powerful thing.
Yeah, and if you could do that through painting, then that's amazing.
Have you moved away from murals?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done a professional mural in a while.
Do you suspect you'll circle back to them?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm making mock-ups to do some, in the meantime, online of like my old designs and stuff.
So when did you move from the spray can to that more legitimate thing? That happened as you took this, and I put in legitimate in quotes, but that was part of the participating in that class.
I still use spray paint in all my work, so I guess you just create something for yourself. You know, if you want to keep developing yourself, you got to do something new.
Yeah,
it just comes naturally, I think.
And so, when did you move? Most of this is acrylic.
Yeah.
When did you move into acrylics and why?
I don't know. I don't know why I choose it. I think I used to use oils, and acrylics was just dried easier and it was easier.
So it's just a practical thing, really.
I use everything, honestly. I use oil, acrylics. Acrylics just like the main thing. But
and what should I understand about the resin pieces?
I just use the resin to solidify the work more, and it brings out the color and shine versus like just using a regular gloss.
So some of these you really want to almost be that like candy,
Yeah.
all day sucker candy look. I mean, that's the look. And again, that's like happiness, happy making.
Yeah, pretty much. But some of them, like if they're not resin, the resin takes away from like the texture. So if you want to keep the texture, I wouldn't suggest resin.
And so you're thinking that is part of the piece, is this needs the hard candy shine, this needs the texture.
Yeah, depending on the piece for sure.
And
that already looks like candy if it didn't have it, so it pops it out even more.
Yeah, and I see you painting on a few different surfaces as well. But, for example, what we're looking right here, the small piece, you're adding dimension as well. So you're thinking about that finished surface and what it evokes. You're thinking about the value that the texture adds, and then it almost like in this piece you're building out.
Almost like it's a 3D version of the one like above it. I feel like each painting is working towards like the next piece. And they're not all going to come out the same, and each one's going to be better than the other, I think.
And you said, we found out we're sort of neighbors here in town. You said you'd done some art in the place that you're living in, that you'd worked on countertops and floors. Can you talk about that? And is that meaningful right alongside this, or is that some entirely different mode?
If I never worked with like resin on this canvas, I wouldn't know like that application, right? That's still epoxy resin you're working with like in a home, but it's a whole new, like it's not the same type of resin you use for a canvas, right? It has to be like contractor grade quality, and I took a course for that, and it's just like having another skill.
I see. But does that feel more like a trade than the art, or ultimately do you feel like you're still?
I mean, I'm not a contractor, so I'm still an artist, so I get to do my thing working with contractors. That's the beauty of learning the epoxy, and so I could put my touch on homes and little fine art here in the bathroom or in the countertop.
Yeah, I love it.
It's definitely going to be for like the more high-end clients.
This is pretty fascinating to me. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing here. It's interesting to step back for a minute and really sort of contemplate this evolution that is now where you're working in more industrial applications as well.
Yeah, I did a few restaurants in Los Angeles. I mean, I got some art on the clothes, and
exactly.
Art on wood, art on mirrors, and a little bit of everything.
Great.
Yeah.
Are you still skating?
No. I rock climb now.
All right.
I think a lot of people who skated younger transitioned to rock climbing. It's like
interesting.
Something you could do on your own and test yourself.
Interesting. There's a term this is a whole other conversation, so I don't want to take us off course, but there's a term that I became aware of maybe 10 years ago: subcultural bohemian play. And the book was about different sports, everything from whitewater paddling, even to fly fishing and surfing and skating, rock climbing, all these sort of non-traditional sports that create these cultures around them, and how you end up with a circuit of people who are, skiing in Tahoe, surfing in Indonesia, and, skating in LA. mixing and sharing ideas.
Yeah, I love that. I like
Yeah.
non-traditional things, and you can do it on your own, and
Uh-huh.
I think that's why I'm so attracted to it. You can just pick it up and advance how much you want to do it, you know?
And so this is a manifestation of that for you.
Yeah, this is something I've always been working on, and I'm gonna keep painting probably the rest of my life, so.
Love it. Well, it's been good talking to you.
Yeah, likewise.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.